everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes. Thank you all for joining me today on this podcast where we talk about professional wrestling for a couple of hours right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, or on your favorite podcast application, wherever you decide to catch the podcast. It doesn't matter to me. The important thing is that you caught it wherever it is it happens. Leave a like on YouTube if you're doing this on YouTube. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or a 5-star rating on Spotify. All these little things that help grow the podcast. I appreciate it a great deal. Thank you very much. So on today's episode, we're going to be doing a couple of reviews. Big review show coming at you, coming for you. We're going to be reviewing AEW Grand Slam Australia, their big overseas show that created a bunch of controversy. Oh my goodness, ring sizes and whatnot. Don't worry, we don't get deep into that. It's a silly conversation to have, and we're not having it. We're going to focus on the show, so we're going to be reviewing Grand Slam. Plus, we are going to be reviewing NXT WWE, I should say, WWE Vengeance Day. So both of these things are going to be wrapped up on the show. And, we're also going to be talking about WWE ID. So we got a nice smattering of affairs to discuss. We got a few things to go over here tonight. So we'll get right to it. Thank you again very much for being here. Join the Discord, by the way. If you'd like to talk more pro wrestling, join a really neat community. The link is in the description. In the meantime, well, guess what? Let's get to it. Thank you very much for being here. Some absolutely incredible news that WWE is adding new belts, new championship titles. Triple H today, of course, well, when I say of course, I mean poor guy, right? Dragged out once again out of the sanctity of his, inner sanctum or whatever. And, basically had to be dragged out, put in front of a camera to take a picture with these two new title belts for the WWE ID people. Because as he says here, the top independent wrestling prospects have been ID'd, and now we're ready to spotlight the best of the best. Here are your first look at the men's and women's WWE ID championships, or as I like to call them now, the WID titles. Right here, see, WID. Look at that. Look at them. Look at them awful titles. Someone earlier today on Twitter, not on Twitter, on the Blue Sky, posted, that. Amongst WWE's many more significant evils, there's this one less significant evil that they've done, and that is like destroy title belt design, completely taking it in a different direction. Anyway, so we all kind of had a good chuckle at this, right? Like I mean, these are not handsome belts, they're not cute, and then you're like, well, what is this? What is even this thing, right? Well, the WWE ID account earlier today followed up and gave some clarity on what this is all about. What is a WWE official ID official match? It is a match between WWE ID prospects that is promoted on this X account. The matches will occur on various independent wrestling promotions. Shouldn't it be in? Anyway. Results of these matches live in the WWID universe. So there's a WWE ID universe. Wins can advance your career. What? Are you telling me? Telling me that wins and losses in the WWE ID universe matter? I've been told for so long that wins and losses don't, but wins and losses can lead. It can even lead to opportunities on WWE Evolved, as soon to be seen on Tubi. My goodness, the opportunities just don't stop. Anything that happens around WWE ID official matches will also live in the WWE ID universe. For instance, you can follow the story of Mathers versus Holloway as their feud builds. Stay tuned. The stakes of WWE ID official matches will escalate soon. It's so convoluted and strange, and it's like, wins and losses are going to matter. And it can lead to opportunities to get onto Evolve. Wow. Holy smokes. And I like how WWE ID official matches is capitalized, right? Official matches. It's real when it's capitalized. So essentially what they're saying here, because this is what we have to glean from this straight from the get-go, is it's a WWID official match. They almost put the TM here at the end. It's a match between WWE ID prospects that is promoted on this X account. So WWE ID people can wrestle other people, as we've seen so far in various promotions, but it's only WWE ID matches that will be for the WWE ID title. So essentially, you're a promotion in, Milwaukee or Eugene, whatever, Cedar Rapids. Just throwing names out there. And you're like, you have to pay to bring these people in to have a WWE ID match on your show. And then they go somewhere else. So you see essentially what this is doing, right? You see what this is that WWE is basically becoming an agent for these people in the context of these WWE ID matches. Now, I say you have to pay them to bring them on. Maybe these promotions already have some kind of relationship with WWE. Maybe they've signed some papers. Maybe they have an outstanding agreement to bring these on, but you can be damn sure that WWE is taking some kind of money from these promotions. They're not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. They're just saying essentially, hey, you know what? We're gonna try and squeeze a little money out of the indies here. We're gonna try and take our piece of the cake here too. It's all under this great umbrella of, we're giving back to the independent circuit. We love the indies so much, but like there's no way they're not doing this without getting a fee. There's no way they're not doing this without getting any kind of money, any kind of compensation. Like I said, it'll either be a circumstance where they've reached out to certain promotions and they'll have this agreement set up with them where, whatever the fuck, or a promotion can reach out to WWE and say, I would like to host one of these WWE ID official matches. And then WWE will like, okay, great. This is how much it costs, kind of thing. That's essentially the thing. One individual asked the question, will these matches be uploaded to a YouTube channel or solely on X? This individual asked the WWE account in the replies to this tweet, and the WWE ID account responded, the matches will be solely on X. So right then and there, I'm like, I got no interest in this. Like, okay, I'm bored now. It's like, I got nothing for you. There's nothing of interest for me now moving forward. It's a fairly transparent scheme, right? I don't know who still needs to hear this. I hear there's some denial going around. I really don't care what, newfangled fans might think of WWE and, we got to give them the benefit of the doubt. You don't have to give WWE the benefit of the doubt. They don't deserve it. They've trampled over any goodwill that you could have multiple times over multiple years. Like there's there's really no reason to give them any benefit of the doubt. The idea that essentially here is WWE is just trying to horn in on the indies as much as possible, to show up at your favorite indie show with their fucking titles, to destroy whatever little credibility that your local indie is trying to build for itself with its own titles and its own talent, so that they can chip away at that very, very auspiciously, right? They're going to do it bit by bit, but nonetheless, like you go to your little homegrown indie, right? You're in Cedar Rapids, wherever, and you go there, and then you're into the characters, the wrestlers, the people that are there. You're into the feuds they've got. You're into, you're really into it, and then all of a sudden, you're getting WWE ID shows, and you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? Why is this happening? Is this really going to draw people to the promotions? I would say no. I don't think this. We know what WWE fans think of the indies, right? They disrespect the indies. They don't like the indies. They think the indies are garbage. So it's not going to draw people going to see the big shows to go slum it on, in an indie warehouse somewhere. It's just not going to happen. So they're not going to be drawing. They're not going to be drawing anyone of importance. Or a significant amount of audience is what I'm trying to fumble my way through here. They just want to disrupt as much as possible an already tenuous ecosystem that exists on the independent circuit by injecting titles from the big leagues into these promotions. It's going to devalue existing championships on the independents. It's going to devalue the independents overall, and is going to eventually, I feel, create some kind of environment in which the independents will not be able to survive without WWE. And in the meantime, what WWE wants out of this is, well, yes, money, but I think more importantly, talent. Most importantly, they want to create a pipeline for talent coming into the company. So they'll have in order to starve everyone else. And when I mean everyone else, I mean AEW, because TNA is not going to hurt from a lack of pipeline into TNA, because they're plugged into NXT. It doesn't matter, right? So basically, WWE wants to create a direct pipeline of talent into their system, and they want to get their claws into the independents as quickly as possible. And anyone who tries to give them the benefit of the doubt is deluding themselves. And I really don't want to sit here and say that, that in a couple of years, I don't want to sit back here and say I was right all along. This is a terrible, terrible idea where it's like, look, the idea was terrible from the get-go, but ultimately we ended up getting, but ultimately, like, their plan is becoming clearer and clearer. They want to really sink their fingers into the independent scene, create a pipeline of talent for themselves, to try to starve out AEW on that front, make it at least more difficult for AEW to pick up talent. And whoever associates with WWE in this situation is ultimately going to get the shaft. That's, essentially what's going to happen, because we have history upon history upon history to prove that we're right. WWE has been doing this for decades. And people seem to think just because Vince is gone that it's not going to be the same thing, that it's going to be, bad man gone, the promotion is better now. It's the same place. The place has not changed since Vince is gone. They're still counter-programming their biggest competition as they've done in the past. They're still going after, in very insidious ways, they're still going after their competition in the same way. And the promotion is filled with, they're still hiring people that have, very weird sexual assault allegations, but are still employed or have been recently employed. as Nick Khan hires his old boys into the fold. So the company hasn't changed. It's still the same place. And this is something that I've said before, and I'll say it again. Triple H didn't get to where he is today without, just on his own accord. He learned from Vince McMahon everything he's learned about creative and making a business go forward and becoming a huge multi-billion corporation, right? $1 billion corporation. Triple H has learned from Vince. He's learned it all from Vince. Everything, right down to the pettiness. And he didn't even need to learn that from Vince. He was already naturally petty, right? It's just as simple as that. And there are examples of that. There are things you can see when Triple H has been petty live and in the flesh. So this company hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. It's the same MO, just different faces that might be doing things slightly differently, but it's all window dressing. Again, something that I've talked about multiple times. So, the titles are laughable. The situation is, not great. And hopefully we will not be sitting here saying, well, who could have seen this coming? Because Warren Hayes saw it coming, but I'm nothing special. Anyone who follows the business, anyone who's been following wrestling for more than 5 minutes understands that there's nothing good going on. And that's it about WWE IDs for today, at the very least. And it is now time to review AEW Grand Slam Australia, which happened on February 15, 2025, from the Brisbane Entertainment Centre in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. A show that has had quite a vibe around it, quite a history around it. I don't want to get into the particular weeds or the details and about itself, and I've talked about it a little bit on other iterations of the Mr. Warren Hayes show or Dynamite Review. I don't remember exactly where I talked about it. I didn't go as in depth on the whole promotion of this show as other outlets did. Rich over at Voices of Wrestling did a tremendous job keeping an eye on everything, being very critical of how it was put together. I made my stance pretty clear, I think, last week. I think it was on the Dynamite Review. I can't quite remember, or if it was on stream. Look, it doesn't really matter. But I made my point on this, and it still remains the same. The show was indeed promoted to be, well, of course, a big stadium show, but also was meant to be special. It was meant to be, I think it had that pay-per-view vibe about it, and it was meant to be a pay-per-view. Things happened. We had to go to plan B, and we downgraded from, I can't remember what the stadium was, to the Brisbane Entertainment Centre, which again caused a lot of controversy. Of course, it's a smaller venue to begin with, but then you also had people mentioning that Brisbane isn't exactly the easiest or funnest city to go visit in Australia. It's not necessarily a place where local Australians will cheer when big events happen there. No one is looking for reasons to go to Brisbane. Let's put it that way. But these are all things that I heard that people were telling me about, people who live in Australia. My stance here is okay. Well, it was a downgrade, was probably a good idea, because if they felt that they weren't going to be able to hit the max for the stadium that they had selected, then it was probably best then that day that they downsize a little, pack that place up, and so be it. Now, if AEW fans in Australia purchase tickets from the get-go, expecting a stadium pay-per-view, and end up with what is essentially a Battle of the Belts type event. A lot of people say it's a collision. Sure, I could go with that as well, but but it felt a little higher than a collision, which I guess what Battle of the Belts always meant to be, despite then ending up sucking and just being bad. I think at least in our collective brains, Battle of the Belts was destined to be more like a Clash of Champions than just a humdrum show. And I think that this Grand Slam show was more than a collision. And there were matches on here that were significant, that were very, very significant, both in execution and as far as story bumps goes, angles, so on and so forth. But it's not a pay-per-view. So if people were upset that they purchased a ticket thinking that they were going to get a pay-per-view and they got this instead, well, I can't blame them for that. That's absolutely fair, because AEW did absolutely give the impression that they were going to deliver a big-time pay-per-view, and they didn't. But they did deliver a solid show in this building. Oh, and one last point too. Going from a stadium to this venue is a downgrade. There weren't as many seats, so of course. But the one thing that we have to keep a sharper focus on, as opposed to going around saying, oh, AEW takes another L, is that they still managed to pack up this arena and pack it. We don't have the exact numbers because no one at this point when I'm recording, which is on Sunday the 16th, no one is actually talking about the numbers. No one has put out any numbers. WrestleTix has not been able to track it because of a bunch of technical considerations. So WrestleTix has not been tracking it as per usual, but this building was packed. You look at the attendance, at the capacity, I should say, for the building, and they say 13,500 for concerts. So I don't know if that's around 13,005 for it, right? I don't know if that's like what we got or how close we were to that for the show. But if they were able to get 13,000 people into this building, that's a success. I don't know what to tell you. That was just I don't know what to tell you. It's just a success. You can't say, oh, they took an L, especially considering, from what I understand, the Brisbane Entertainment Center is like the second biggest indoor venue in the country. So it's like, okay, it's not as if it's not as if they're moving to some, small time college arena in, Kansas or whatever the fuck, it's like, no, this was a it's decent attendance that made a lot of sense and made a lot of money. What was it like? I think I should have checked this out before starting. Shouldn't have I? I shouldn't have I? Shouldn't have I? But I think Tony Khan was saying that it was the third biggest gate in the history of the company. No, it was Dave Meltzer. Dave tweeted out a couple of days ago, with 2 days before showtime, the gate for AEW in Brisbane is now the third largest in the history of AEW, having topped Forbidden Door 2023 for the number 1 spot. And I believe that Forbidden Door, the gate was around 1.3 million, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. For Forbidden Door 2023 was 1.3 million. So we know that it's done at least $1.3 million at the gate. So that's, you cannot call this a failure. So the main problem that this show is going to have moving forward, as far as it, calling it a success or not, is the fact that it needed to be downgraded from a stadium show. And that's going to cloud a lot of issues moving forward, because if they hadn't had to downgrade, if AEW had just gone in to Brisbane straight out the gate, no one would be sitting here. We wouldn't be having this conversation going, oh, well, and having all of this talk, and then having to deal with the perception that the show isn't successful, when the show quite noticeably was successful. And on top of that, you had yourself a hot crowd who were there in a packed venue, some great shots. You didn't have to do those annoyingly tight shots of the arena because it's either it's too small or, there's not enough people in it. And, you had these nice wide range shots. AEW looked and felt good again, and that's ultimately what you're looking for. Isn't that what you kind of want out of all of this? So it's hard to say that this was not successful. In fact, I think you only have to be very much bad faith. Yes, we can talk about the downgrade, but ultimately this show worked out and it was successful. Maybe not on the level that they had first hoped it to be, but it's a success nonetheless. If you go into a country, you pack up the building, and you make over $1.3 million off of it, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you need to determine what success is. Now, yes, they were doing BOGOs. They were doing all sorts of sales and whatnot. I couldn't. How did they paper it? I couldn't tell you how much it was papered, if it was at all. I couldn't tell you. But the point is you get people in there, and despite doing BOGOs and whatnot, you do 1.3 million. And from what I understand, this was a bot show. Like there were people involved in bringing AEW over, basically that paid AEW to bring them over. From what I understand, I wasn't fully aware of this until like last week or something. I don't know if you all knew this, but whoever were the Australian promoters on this, well, they got a nice little chunk of change, to the point that they announced that they were going to be back next year after the show, right? So I don't know. Seems like a good outcome for a show that was solid. I thought this was a solid professional wrestling show. Is this, am I going to be remembering this show come the end of the year? Am I going to be clamoring for the great show that was a Grand Slam Australia? No. But there was enough good stuff on this show for it to be solid. Let's get into it. Let's just jump right in. You'll see exactly what I mean. And I don't know when this started exactly. I watched this earlier this morning, so I didn't watch it live yesterday. So I don't know when Grand Slam actually started, because it started after the All-Star game, right? And they being AEW, did a really smart move by having your two top athletic guys, right? Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega, come out along with two other highly athletic guys, don't get me wrong, but two top guys that the audience goes crazy for, that have these huge Tron presentations and whatnot. Go out there and do some incredible stuff. So if you're someone who's done watching the if you're someone done watching the NBA All-Star game, and you're just sitting back and you're like, oh, wrestling, who's this? Will Ospreay and whatever. But you see people going nuts for him, and then you see him jumping around doing his incredible shit, just like Kenny Omega. Maybe you'll stick around. You'll stick around because you'll be looking at some athletic guys doing some athletic shit in front of a hot crowd. I think that was the smartest thing to do. It was a perfect way to start the show. If you had started this with the Death Riders, you could probably make an argument to say, oh, wait, John Moxley, people will remember him and they'll say, hey, that's Dean Ambrose, right? That's what happened to him. Yeah, but to a degree. I think you'd be better off just having your people doing athletic things, essentially, is what I'm saying. And we'll see if that strategy paid off, Cotton, in a couple of days. But as it stands right now, Omega and Ospreay defeated Fletcher and Takeshita in a great tag team match. It was a ton of fun, very hot opener. What can we say about it? It was hot because you had your top guys in here, and the crowd was hot for it at the same time. Kenny and Will get a lot of big offense in early, of course. Like we said, that was probably part of the strategy. They do a double Rise of the Terminator, which got a big chuckle out of me. You can tell Will is into this homage stuff where, or aping the moves. Will is like, come on, let's do it together, And I know they're working, but sometimes there's just a little glimmer. There's just a little glimmer in someone's eye when they're doing something that they really, really want to do. That's like, oh yeah, let's do this. It'll be cool. Just something cool to do. So that was good. Pulling all the big moves on each other, all four guys, all throughout the match. Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher have a tremendous exchange of acrobatic moves. And Kyle is basically Will's base here. And it is just tremendous. Like, they're just doing stuff on each other that ends with a huge DDT by Ospreay, which is just fantastic stuff. Takeshita Germans both Omega and Ospreay at once. Kenny Omega does a whole Hurricane Rana from the top. Yeah, that's right. He did a whole Hurricane Rana from the top rope. But a little later on in the match, he flubs a Poison Rana spot. Like, really flubs it. And I'm like, this is taped. Why did you keep that? Why did you keep that? Because Kenny really, I don't know, a rare miss by the cleaner here, but I'm like, why was this kept in the final edit? You really could have just got rid of that. Will Ospreay and Omega go for stereo finishers, but the heels reverse out of those both at the same time and land a pile driver and a bastard driver. We got them slugging it out some more. Kenny gets the tar beat out of him by the heels. Will Ospreay even has to come in for a big save to keep Kenny from getting pinned. He even turtles him at some point, like just covering him with his body. He's like, no, I shall protect Kenny Omega. It was tremendous stuff, and does a running dive off of the post to the floor, which was amazing. And they end the match with a super cool and super awesome double team to maneuver, a one-winged angel top rope hidden blade combo, which was, okay, this is just cool. Now this is just cool. Thank you very much for the cool match. The babyfaces win. I gave this 4.25 stars. This was a great match. This was so much fun. And the crowd was into it, and I was into it, and everyone was into it. Everyone looked good here. I'm telling you, these guys in this ring right now, all together. Can you imagine that this is not the top program of the company? That for some reason, neither of these four guys is involved in the top program of the company? I don't know what to tell you, but this was a lot of fun. Great match. Match of the night, like easily out the gate. They got rid of that straight out the gate, so that was a lot of fun. Next, Mercedes Moné successfully retained her TBS championship against Harley Cameron. Yeah, I mean, look, this was. I want to choose my words carefully, not that carefully, but I don't want to say something mean because there's nothing to be mean about. But I don't want it to come across as mean. This was the best possible outcome for a Harley Cameron match in 2025. And I even think, look, I will even be as bold as to say that it probably went a little above and beyond what you would expect from a Harley Cameron match in 2025. Now, in case you're new to the channel and my professional wrestling ramblings, I want to underscore this very, very clearly. I like Harley Cameron a lot. Okay, this is a Harley Cameron podcast. We like her. We like her here. She is probably the most all-around entertaining person in all of professional wrestling. Like, I think by far, like we spoke about not that long ago, she by far is one of the funniest, if not the funniest. There's not a lot of people who are funny in pro wrestling. They think they're funny, but doing comedy properly requires a lot of skill, particularly timing and delivery, which a lot of people don't necessarily have. I think a guy like R-Truth in WWE is legitimately funny because he gets it. He understands comedy. I think a girl like Harley Cameron absolutely gets it. Woman, what am I doing here? A woman like Harley Cameron gets it because she is very naturally funny. She's extremely good at what she does. But a lot of times in pro wrestling, we think someone's funny, but really they're not. Do you remember a few years ago? I don't know why this is popping into my head right, but I know why, because I was looking for a comp. Do you remember a few years ago when the Street Profits first made it up to Monday Night Raw? Do you remember this? Or at least main roster. And I don't know if it was SmackDown or Raw. And look, I'm already getting too much in the weeds. At some point, they had them do SNL Weekend Update bits. Do you remember this? And I think it lasted 2 weeks, or maybe just the 1 week. And people were like, no, this stinks because the guys don't have timing. But everyone thought, oh, Montez Ford, he's so charming and comical and so on and so forth. And Angelo Dawkins was not suited for the role of comedic man in any way, shape, or form. That's a good example where you're like, yeah, we can do comedy. No, really, you can't. You like, this is not funny. This is something Vince would say so many times in regards to his WWE superstars, that they can do it all. They can wrestle, sure, but they can act, and they can do comedy, they can sing, they can dance, right? They can do all of that. But just because you can do something doesn't mean you're good at it. I like to crack a joke once in a while. Does that make me a comedian? Hell no. And I have the foresight, to understand that. The self-awareness to understand that. So, there's not a lot of really funny people in pro wrestling, and I think Harley is. And then on top of that, she sings, she dances. We talked about the rap that she did on Dynamite this week, on the Dynamite review. And again, I reiterate, I don't know if she's actually good at rapping or if she's pulling an Iggy Azalea, someone would have to tell me. I'm not well versed enough in hip hop rap culture music to be appreciative of the level of effort. If it's just basic, it seems impressive to me, but I'm a layman. I have no understanding. It's like I'm a child and I'm seeing fireworks for the first time in my life. I'm like, ooh, that seems pretty nice. I'll never, probably no one else has ever done this before, and this is really tremendous, right? It's easy to be impressed when you don't know anything. That's what I'm trying to say. But we shouldn't forget, this is all my very long-winded way of saying that I like Harley Cameron, but I'm also aware that she's 2 years into her professional wrestling career. Like she is still very incredibly, terribly green, right? She has never really, she has one television victory in her career that happened last week. So it's like she gets into the ring and you can see it, just in the way she holds herself, the way she performs, the way she executes the moves is what I meant more than performs, the way she executes the moves. There's still hesitancy. There's still her thinking about the move, and now she's thinking, and once it's done, all right, now I got to think about the next one, and so on and so forth. Mercedes Moné was a tremendous guide for her in this match. I think anyone who watches Moné can absolutely sit back, cross their arms, and go, that was a slow match. Mercedes works a little faster than this most of the time. And she probably had to slow it down for Harley so that she could keep up. But the thing is that we weren't wrestling at a crawl either. We're not doing, Ty Conchi, Ty Mello versus Santana Garrett. That's not the kind of match that we're having here. But it's not as fast as Mercedes usually goes, and that's normal. That's because Mercedes has been doing this for years upon years at this point. She's one of the greatest to ever do it. So she's just making sure that Harley can follow, but still at a decent pace for a wrestling match. We're not trying to carry baby through their first match here. It's more like, okay, well, let's set the pace to this and let's sort of work within those those parameters. And Harley held her own. I honestly thought she looked good. Other than things that you can see, that you can spot for someone who hasn't been all that often in a wrestling ring, she did very good. And we both got a very competent, good little match out of it. On top of that, I give it 3 stars. I'll give it a nice flat 3. I think both women worked hard and they didn't overdo it. And, there was the puppet. I was involved in this and, got the big cheers from the crowd. Look, I don't know why AEW is not merchandising these puppets. I don't know why they're not like instantly on the shelves like now. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you. Like the idea is make money, right? And a lot of people said it's like they never sold Penta or Phoenix masks. Now, I know there might be some IP issues with AAA. I mean, it might not be all that easy. But the point is that you have something that has the potential to make a lot of money for you. And I know a puppet is not like putting out a t-shirt. There's probably something a little more demanding out of it, but fuck, man, at the very least, you can do a limited run of 100 and you sell this shit for like $100, right? Am I wrong in thinking this? Like fucking, what's his name? The ventriloquist comedian who's not funny. Jeff Dunham, right? Jeff Dunham, the guy with the ventriloquist with the dead terrorist gimmick, right? You know who I'm talking about. That guy sells his puppets. That guy sells his puppets on Amazon. Okay? He sells its own. You can have a nice little ventriloquist puppet based off of his actual ventriloquist puppets, and he sells them on Amazon for like $200. I'm not kidding. You can check this out, okay? If you don't believe me, go right ahead. You can buy, I don't know if you can buy the skeleton, the dead terrorist, but you can buy the other like purple geek. I've seen these. You can buy Jeff Dunham puppets. Why couldn't AEW? And he sells them for like $200. This is the batshit insane thing. He sells them for $200. So I'm like, okay, why doesn't AEW do this? Mass produce 100 of these puppets with the goofy hair and just sell a limited series of them. Fucking YouTubers do this. The YouTubers do this. They have their plushies. And then all of a sudden you have this random fucking YouTuber who does like, I don't know, Roblox gameplay videos. It's like, buy my plushie. It's like, then he's got a plushie. And it's like the third one he's put out. It's a third series of this plushie. And I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, I don't understand. And it's successful enough for him to have put out like 3 different series of this fucking plushie. Why can't AEW put out a Mercedes Moné fucking puppet? I don't it blows my mind. And no matter what you feel about the puppet, it's a merchandising opportunity. It's huge. They could be making a lot of money with this. Anyway, the puppet gets kicked around in this match. Until Harley uses it and it's clearly angry. The head has the furrowed brow. The puppet was mad. Yeah, Harley does a flying crossbody and a Canadian destroyer at some point. Powerbomb and Meteora by Mercedes, who also earlier in the match does the 3 Amigos. Like, Harley's eating it and dishing it out. Terrible Tiger feint kick by Harley, though. She should not do that. And I think no one should do Tiger feint kicks in 2025 anymore. I think that move should be retired. Just leave Rey Mysterio do it. Even his look like shit now. Just let Rey do it, and that's the end of that, right? Harley goes for a swanton. She wipes out and eats the moneymaker for the win. Like I said, good match. Good little match that they had. I'm not gonna. Is this a match of the year? Hell no. It's not making anyone's list. I don't think. But the point I think once again that we're underscoring when talking about Harley Cameron, at least when I'm talking about Harley Cameron, is that she has tremendous potential as much as an in-ring performer as an outside of the ring performer. She is someone that when her contract comes up, I throw all the money at to hang on to. I do not want this woman to go to WWE. I don't. I really, 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 really don't. After the match, Momo Watanabe is at ringside. It's funny. Momo Watanabe is at ringside, and from Stardom, of course, and she sort of steps up to Mercedes, and Mercedes sort of pie faces her with the TBS title, and Momo's like, "Rrr." And no one on commentary fucking mentions her. Was there a mention of Momo early on in the show that maybe was edited out of the Max version? Because I watched it on Max. What? I don't understand. No one mentioned Momo Watanabe from Stardom there and on commentary, and how Mercedes was pie facing her, clearly setting up some kind of match somewhere. Baffling. So next, before we get to the next match, they announce, they have, I should say, Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay cut promos backstage to challenge their heel counterparts of the Don Callis family. They have Will Ospreay challenging Kyle Fletcher in a cage, which is really fucking cool. This, of course, both matches are for Revolution, by the way. So, Ospreay challenging Kyle Fletcher to a cage match, which I am 100% for. And then it gets messy, but it gets messy because of something that happens later on in the show. And we're all going to cover this in one spot here. So Kenny Omega challenges Konosuke Takeshita for the international title at Revolution. And I'm like, hot damn. And I'm rubbing my hands together. I'm like, let's go. Kenny Omega, one of the greatest in the world. Konosuke Takeshita, I throw in that same boat. He is tremendous. And I'm like, now I'm excited. I'm like, let's go. This is Revolution, man. Revolution is the big ass AEW pay-per-view. AEW pay-per-view. Every year, for the past 2 years, they've just been incredible shows. Last year, all-time great wrestling show. So they're stacking it up again this year. Fletcher and Ospreay locked in a cage, and then Takeshita and Omega going at it. Like, I'm so stoked for this. But here's the thing. A little later on in the evening, we get a graphic appear with too much information on it for the time that it's being displayed on TV, right? The thing is on like TV for like 5 seconds, and there's like 3 columns of information and a big banner, and it's like, I'm trying to process all the information, but boom, it's like it's gone already. And it's probably less than 5 seconds. I feel like in 5 seconds, I could at least have gotten the gist of it, but I had to go back and watch this. I had to go back and press fucking pause and read what the hell was being presented to me. So we're doing an international series, okay? International Championship Series. And the series is one match. It's one match, and it's divided into 3 parts, okay? The first part, Roderick Strong versus Orange Cassidy, both former international champions, that are going to duke it out this week on Dynamite, with the winner facing Konosuke Takeshita the week after on Dynamite for the international title. And the winner of that then moves on to Revolution. That's the third part, to face Kenny Omega. And I'm completely baffled with the sequence of events that have happened on this show. Just absolutely baffled with what just occurred. Earlier in the evening, I have an outright challenge being put forth by Kenny Omega saying, I'm challenging you. And we're rubbing our hands together and we're going, let's go. And later in the show, we get this thing that's announced, which basically retcons what Kenny Omega said, because He's not going to be challenging Konosuke Takeshita directly. He's challenging for the international title, but that's not what we want. And that's not necessarily what Kenny Omega wants. He wants to fight Takeshita for the title. Not just Roderick Strong or Orange Cassidy. He wants Takeshita. And now Takeshita is in a position now where he has to earn his spot to fight. He has to earn the spot to fight Kenny Omega at Revolution, which is completely bonkers. He, the champion, has to fight for the opportunity to fight his challenger. That makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. Now, if Kenny Omega had said, I'm coming for you, Takeshita, somewhere down the line, I'm going to get you, kind of thing. It's like, all right, that's cool, right? And then you have this little international series where you have Ospreay, not Ospreay, but Cassidy and Storm. You do the whole same thing. Strong, Jesus Christ. You do the whole thing that you've already set up. Cassidy versus Strong to face Takeshita, and then Takeshita, is free for Revolution, right? And then after Takeshita beats whichever of the two geeks he defeats, because we know it's not Orange Cassidy or Roderick Strong that are going to be fighting at Revolution, right? At least at this point. So Takeshita wins, and then after the match, after winning the series, essentially, then you have Kenny Omega come in and say, hey, I'm challenging you to Revolution. And then it's like, oh, that makes sense, right? But no, we're going to do this convoluted thing where we won't be able, for 2 weeks now, in a pay-per-view that is going to be in 3 weeks, right? March 9 or something. Let me pull up a calendar here just to make sure. Yeah, for a pay-per-view in 3 weeks, this one match that a bunch of people will be very excited to see, that could potentially sell some tickets. No, we're going to backburner this one for 3 weeks. I keep saying, with how attendance is in AEW right now, Tony Khan does not have the luxury to do this type of angle. He needs to put his booking, he needs to put his booking's best foot forward at every occasion he can, including this. We can't do secret, what's going to happen. Just be clear. I mean, and I know that Takeshita Omega is probably going to be the match at this point, especially since Omega already talked about it, and which also then has the effect of spoiling the outcome of this series and takes away a lot of drama from it because everyone's just shrugging and going, well, it's going to be Omega, so who cares? And instead of hyping that match and making us more excited with angles and whatnot over the next 3 weeks, we're going to do this thing. To a degree, we could have even done Kenny Omega has to be in this series, right? He has to earn his way. Have your little 2-week tournament. Keep Takeshita out of it. He's the champion. You have your little 2-week tournament, and Omega has to earn his way to Revolution. And I don't think anyone would have an issue with that. Do you think anyone would have an issue with Kenny Omega wrestling on their TV for the next 2 Wednesday nights in the lead up to a big pay-per-view match? No, of course not. What a weird decision. And it just looks like poor communication and or just messy booking that are kind of like, both of which are kind of like hallmarks of AEW in 2025. I don't know. It's so strange. It's so very strange. Anyway, let's move on. Next on the agenda, we have the Death Riders, the Death Rider duo of Jon Moxley, the AEW World Champion, and Claudio Castagnoli, defeating Adam Copeland and Jay White. This was a wrestling match that was, look, it was just your standard issue plunder match that just happened to have a little bit of edge to it, no pun intended, because there was razor wire introduced and Mox didn't mind the bleeding. and he bled from the back, and that's pretty much it. I mean, otherwise it's just such a typical plunder match. Here's something that I want to posit on to you, okay? Here's something that I want to, I know I've complained quite a bit about the Death Riders and how they struggled and still do to feel important and truly a threat to AEW, because their only opposition so far, their only true opposition, has been mid-carders, right? Like, the lower mid-carders on top of that, the Dark Order, and Mark Briscoe, and guys who are not top guys in this company, right? The top flight kids and so on and so forth, like guys that you don't associate with winners. Private Party, all of this sort of came together here, and the Death Riders struggled to in their credibility on that front, but they did have like a faction of pro wrestlers who were trying to stand up against them, right? Because they didn't want the Death Riders to take over or whatever the fuck. Now we have Adam Copeland and Jay White, who are in this match and are getting overwhelmed by numbers and underhanded tactics and whatnot. Why aren't the Death Riders, why aren't the baby faces being supported by people backstage? Why aren't the original resistance to the Death Riders, why aren't they running out to try and prevent them? Like it doesn't make sense, because what you see here is Copeland and FTR for that fact, right? So all you see here is Copeland and Jay White getting the piss beat out of them by the numbers game, and no one on the babyface side of the locker room is like, I'm going to go lend a hand. Legitimately not that long ago, Will Ospreay was saying, I want to get involved on this Jon Moxley stuff, but I can't because this would have been a nice little opportunity to just do something, right? Not with how things shook out. Just bear with me, like hypothetically. Doesn't that make sense? Makes more sense than these people just like running around doing whatever the hell they want and no one coming in to help them. I don't know. But look, I thought, I thought this was good, if unremarkable. 2 3/4 stars. Like I didn't necessarily think this was good. I didn't think it was bad, passable, mediocre, whatever. It is what it is, And here's the curious thing, is that Jon Moxley, the champion, the heel champion, it choked out his challenger, just yanked back and choked him out, and he died in the ring. Well, you know what I mean? Not really. It's a wrestling show. He passed out, and that's that. The champion, the world champion is having the pay-per-view match, choked out the challenger beforehand. Okay, so what's Revolution for? What's the Revolution match for? I just saw the result. I see what's going to happen, right? Now, I heard someone put out a very distressing theory that, in fact, Adam Copeland, by losing this, if you follow pro wrestling logic, it would imply that Adam Copeland is going to win at Revolution, right? You lose the warm-up match, but you win the real one. Adam Copeland wins, and then Christian Cage does his cash-in gimmick and becomes world champion. And I kind of think that sucks. And it's a shame, but I'm not going to expand too much on that. That's just like a terrible thought that just came through. And I'm like, ugh, that's right. This fucking I hope we never do another fucking cash in ever again in AEW. I hope this is done. This fucking briefcase shot you can claim at any time. I'm so over this shit. I don't like it. I don't like Money in the Bank, and I don't like this. Kazuchika Okada defeated Buddy Matthews to retain the Continental title. This was a good match. It was a good, well-wrestled match. Look, let's handle this straight off the bat. 3 stars from me. I don't think it was anything remarkable. I think it was well done. I think it was good. Was it that good? No, I don't think it was that good. But you know what? Here, I'm just thinking about it more. I'm just looking over the notes. We're going to bump it up a 1/4 star. 3 1/4 star. Because, it's solid enough and it's well worked. And everyone's doing like good stuff. And, Buddy Matthews is, he's pulling out the big moves and the big strikes. And you're like, okay, this, we're into a groove here. But I feel like the match was interrupted just as we were about to hit another gear. We never got that other gear. Then again, Okada likes the, he's a 20-minute match guy, not a 13-minute match, not a 13-minute one. So it is what it is. My only complaint here is Kazuchika Okada should be putting Buddy Matthews away without cheating. Shouldn't he? Right? Don't we believe that Kazuchika Okada should be putting guys away without cheating, particularly guys who are not meant to be in the same lane? I mean, it establishes that very clearly, and would only help Okada down the road. Sometimes it's okay for heels to exhibit dominance and just be a clear winner in a match. Look at what happened with MJF just earlier this week on Dynamite. He got into the ring with Dustin Rhodes and put him away without any nonsense, without the Dynamite Diamond Ring or low blows or anything. Just won him over. Just a clean win over Dustin, which he should. That's the thing, is that he should be able to defeat Dustin Rhodes without chicanery, because Dustin, in the hierarchy of AEW, in the lanes, like I talk about quite a bit, he's not on the same lane. He's not in the same lane as MJF. He's on a completely different one, a lower lane, and he should be put away decisively by a top guy. I don't know why we had to do this here, but yeah, the superplex jackhammer spot was cool from Buddy. That was tremendous. Does the standing cloverleaf in an homage to his misses. And so the referee, there's no ref bump. The referee is distracted. Okada's hanging on to him. And meanwhile, Okada does the reverse kick between the legs. And that's it. We're done. What a shame. Anyway, 3 1/4 match, 3 1/4 star for this one. And finally, the main event was saw Toni Storm defeat Mariah May to become the new AEW Women's World Champion. I don't know who else was expecting any other outcome to all of this than this, in this very physical, very hard-hitting match that I appreciated tremendously. I thought it was a lot of fun. Good, strong, physical, no nonsense. No, gimmickry or foolishness. Toni Storm comes out and she's doing the Toni Storms thing, but she's dressed in the Australian flag colors. She's got the little Union Jack on one side and the stars on the other. I thought this was very good. The Toni Storm is, she's pulling out all the Germans that she can, up to 6 German suplexes consecutive on Mariah May, and Mariah shotgun suplexes her on the floor. There's some submissions. Mariah May's doing the Mayday on the floor, which is tremendous as well. Toni does 3 consecutive hip attacks and the Storm 0 to try and put the match away, but Mariah May kicks out. Mariah May does 2 Maydays. Toni Storm kicks out. Running powerbomb by Toni Storm, followed by a Storm 0, but Mariah May rolls out of the ring, which I thought was tremendous at this point. She comes back, fights back. Storm 0 goes for the Mayday, but Toni Storm inside cradles her and gets the surprise pin win And Mariah May is no longer the world champion. So how about that? I mean, clearly this feud is not over. Clearly they're going to have one more left in the tank, and we're probably going to get it at Revolution. And it's probably something that's going to involve, I would say, blood. I think this is a necessary bump here, but I don't think this by any chance ends this feud. I think we're going to have the proper blow off in a couple of weeks at Revolution, and I would be entirely for them making this some kind of hardcore bloody match. You know, the hardcore matches of AEW's women's division are always good, always great. So let these two just like go completely bananas, as long as we can rein in the nonsense like we did here. This is a no nonsense wrestling match, and I like that. I love it. I like that a lot. 3.5 stars out of 5, actually. I get, like, I was kind of expecting them to start building up to a big pinfall win. And I was like, oh, the match is done. So that, but what I saw was good. So yeah, I don't think it's over by a mile. I think we're just going to circle back to it in a couple of weeks. And again, I'm all right with that. If they give it a big final stip, I am 100% okay with it. 100% okay. So there you have it, folks. AEW and their Grand Slam Australia show. Super solid professional wrestling show. No nonsense. No tomfooleries. Just people wrestling. What more do you want? Just people coming in, doing matches, beating the piss out of each other. Doing some spectacular moves, doing some good in-ring storytelling. I can't help but make the correlation as, in regards to the Battle of the Belt shows, who have always been disappointments. I've always been like, maybe outside of the first one, which had the appeal of something new. From that point on, they all stunk, right? No one. So I kind of look at this show and I'm like, this is the kind of stuff that Battle of the Belts could have been, but I don't know. They just decided to not do that. Anyway, good show, solid show. If you've got time, check out the tag team match at the start. That's really the must-see match of the show. And, if you want to sit down for a couple of hours, 2 hours in and out of easy breezy pro wrestling watching, I'm not gonna blame you. It's a good show. It's a good show. Anyway, let's review WWE Vengeance Day 2025, not WWE NXT Vengeance Day. Good old WWE Vengeance Day, straight out there without the NXT brand, none of that sullying the good WWE name. Took place in Washington, D.C. at the Care First Arena. 3,849 people, or tickets were distributed, we should say. 4,200 seat arena is the Care First arena. So, take it for what that's worth. I'm going to tell you all, I didn't hate this show. This is going to be the theme of tonight's NXT review. Didn't hate it. Didn't necessarily like it. I'm in that really weird gray zone where it's like, there's enough stuff here, enough effort in most circumstances for me to go, well, that wasn't so bad, as opposed to other instances of the World Wrestling Entertainment product, where I'm completely despondent of what's happening. I'm stunned, actually, particularly NXT, where I'm like, it was probably their best since Heatwave. What was Heatwave? That would be Heatwave 2024. What was on that show? I don't think anyone blames me for forgetting what was going on. Roxanne Perez versus Lola Vice was probably not the one I was looking for. Obafemi Wesley. Oh yeah, there was the really good Axiom Nathan Frazier and Andre Chase Duke Hudson show. A match. That was really good. Kalani Jordan versus Sol Ruka. I'm pretty sure I wasn't really into that. Wasn't that the one that everyone got really upset about because it was just, yeah, that was the one that created a whole bunch of controversy because the WWE fans were losing their minds and a lot of us were like, they're just doing a routine here and they're paying homage to Ricochet, Will Ospreay, and it's, you know, they're doing it at 0.75 speed without any impact or crispness, right? That was it, right? Obafemi, who was versus Wesley, and Wesley put him over big time. And I feel like I really didn't like the main event. Ethan Page, Trick Williams, Javon Evans, and Sean Spears. That's when, yeah, everyone liked this main event, but I didn't. Because I really hated the finish. I thought it was stupid. It's, well, you know, the bar isn't high if the bar was Heatwave. I mean, I know it has 9.11 rating on Cage Match right now, which is bonkers. Essentially, my stance on this show is that it wasn't a terrible show. I have seen multiple times a terrible show. I've seen multiple terrible shows, NXT shows. This was not one of them, but you know, I feel like it's a solid representation of the glaring problems that exist in NXT. And, you know, again, why it's something that's not for me. But look, let's go right ahead and start reviewing it. Did you look to see what Dave Meltzer gave it? Heatwave, you mean? Or I know Dave really liked Heatwave. Dave really liked Heatwave for some peculiar reason. I don't know if he rated this show yet. I don't know if doesn't he save that for the Observer? I don't know. Anyway, let's go right ahead. Let's jump right in with Stephanie Vaquer defeating Fallon Henley to become the new WWE NXT North American champion. So when Vaquer is in control, especially early on in the match, it's really interesting to see Fallon Henley do some counter wrestling because she's been in the system for a couple of years, right? At what point do you say at what point do you stop calling a wrestler a rookie or green, right? Because Fallon Henley's been doing this for a while now. Hey, look, even before she got she got brought into WWE, right? She was working the beat. Like she's been working more than I thought. Honestly, like this is not someone whose career I've been following, but she worked for Shine. She did some AEW spots and quite a bit, which I didn't realize. She was known as Tesha Price. I just really didn't realize that. And you'd think at this point, after what? How many years has she been doing this? 7 years. You'd think she'd be a solid, well put together performer, but she's kind of slow. And I feel like, I kind of feel like Vaquer had to adapt to that. She kind of had to do her thing. Vaquer is, she's a high caliber professional wrestler. Like she's an international talent that has to go around, that has to stick around a warehouse and wrestle these completely unfinished and unprepared wrestlers. And it's weird talking about that in the case of Fallon Henley, who's been doing this for 7 years, and yet she still feels unpolished. Like, with the way they've been doing cuts recently, they being WWE, if I were Fallon Henley, I'd be a little worried of what my next step is. I'd be very worried for my spot moving forward. I wouldn't be entirely confident that I'm making it through the next round of cuts. Because she's been in that system for 5 years at this point. I mean, at some point, you have to show distinct improvement. And Fallon Henley, I feel, is just like in the exact same spot. Hey, Dan Reed of Pro Wrestling Eve. Nice to see you. And welcome. So, in this match here, JC Jane interferes. It allows Fallon Henley to get in control. And, it stays on the same level right up until Vicaire gets her babyface comeback, which includes a springboard crossbody and the head stomp thing that Booker T seems to enjoy a little too much. Just a little too much. And JC Jane interferes as well, or more, I should say, during the match, clocking Vicaire with a straight right while the referee's distracted. But Vicaire fights off all of Toxic Attraction, Fatal Influence. She does a butterfly gutbuster on the apron, springboard crossbody to the floor, and does that twisting top rope tornillo for the win. Clunky match. And look, like I said, I think Vicaire is too good for, having to compose with this. This match was nothing special. I thought it was bog average. I don't think it was particularly inspired either. 2.5 stars. So, I'm watching this and I'm like, well, are we off to a rousing start here? Next, we had Axiom and Nathan Frazier defeating Yoshiki Inamura and Josh Briggs. And I'm slapping my hands together and I'm going, all right, we got the Fraxium boys coming out. This is going to be good. And it was very good. I enjoyed this match tremendously with Frazier and Axiom continuing their streak of NXT matches that Warren actually enjoys watching. And they had some really good opponents here, big, beefy guys to go after their smaller frames, right? Which was tremendous. And I really liked the start to this because we sort of stepped away from the usual, this is what we stepped away from. We stepped away from two things. From the usual, collar and elbow tie-up and, feats of strength and, just like the feeling out period. Or, Fraxium trying to do stuff, but Briggs and Inamura are so big that, everything they do, it sort of fails. No, we've got the champs coming in full speed, full force to begin with, just buzzing around the ring around the big guys, and doing some really exciting, high-flying stuff right out the gate. And that gave such a great jolt of energy after the very tepid match we got before. We've got, there's a chop battle that happens as well between Inamura and Axiom, where, Inamura's like, he's doing the fighting spirit kind of thing, where he's standing there and he's come on, hit me and whatnot. And Axiom tries, but he can't keep up. So what does he do? Well, he nails him in the face with a kick, of course, which I thought was great. Excellent hot tag from Nathan Frazier that followed. He is so good. He is so incredibly good. Avalanche splash by Axiom on Inamura. Top rope chokeslam by Briggs, which was awesome as well. And then we get Inamura who DVDs Nathan Frazier on Axiom as well, who stacks them on top of each other. He goes up for a big splash, but the pool is empty. The guys roll out of the way. Orihara moonsault by Axiom on the floor onto Briggs, and then they hit their high-low finisher on Inamura for the win. Tremendous stuff. I thought that was I thought that was a blast. Really a fun match. High energy. Look, it's basically the stuff that I expect out of Axiom and Frazier. And, I haven't seen Inamura wrestle in WWE since he's been there for a while, right? Didn't he landed like in November, I think? He's been there for a while, and I really haven't seen him wrestle because if he's not wrestling on the pay-per-views, I don't see what he's up to. So that was fantastic to see him there, and I thought he looked good. Briggs was obviously like they established him as the big destructive powerhouse. I think they're a good team. They're a good team of big beefy boys that can get over really easily because so many guys on that roster are much smaller than them. So they can use that to their advantage. And it, made a nice size differential here. I thought the match was very, very good. I gave it 3 3/4 stars if you care for that kind of stuff. I really did love it. I thought it was tremendous. Fraxium continued to be the highlight of these shows because, spoiler alert, this was the match of the night. After the match, what did Big Man Dogs in the chat call them? The Shield Tribution. Jump into the ring. If you do not know who these guys are, neither do I. So I got nothing except I think one of the guys is like is one of the guys Evander Holyfield's kid, right? Lewis Dixon, whatever the fuck. One of the guys is Lucky Ali. Really? One of the guys is Lucky Ali. That's really hilarious, though. From the Qatar Wrestling Association or whatever. I didn't recognize any of them, and they all had the masks on most of the time, and I was mostly just laughing. So no, it's not Elijah Holyfield. There was one guy. Anyway, it doesn't matter. One of them is Lucky Ali. Good. I mean, good for everyone. I didn't recognize anyone. And poor Ali's gonna have to carry a bunch of track stars. I'm sure he's stoked for that. I guess he won't be at. I guess he will not be at the next at the next Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling show in March. I guess Lucky Ali is off the card. I would assume. So, but no, it's interesting. It's not interesting. I agree. This is exactly what Big Dog just put in the chat is exactly what I was about to say. I think these guys are supposed to be a big deal, but I don't know who any of these guys are, except for Lucky Ali, who I didn't really recognize, to be completely honest. Didn't recognize anyone. It's just like, I'm sitting there going, is this retribution? Is this retribution again? Are we trying this again? Are we going to get vignettes of people, throwing bricks through, through the glass windows of WWE headquarters and stuff like that? I'm like, is this what we're doing? I don't understand. I don't understand what this was about. And I'm, this would not be the last we see of them on the evening as well. I looked it up. Lucky Ali is now Saquon Sugars. Saquon Sugars. All right. Dion Lennox. That's who I was thinking of. Joined this group after Carmen Petrovic friend zoned him. There's a lot of that happening in NXT, I've been told. That's the guy who I was thinking about, Dion Lennox. We've seen this angle multiple times. Mystery group of thugs that just show up and start beating people up, and you're like, wait, who are they? And the payoff is that usually, right, when there's masked people coming in to take out other people and their identities are hidden, the payoff is that at least, we should be able to recognize at least one person here. That was the thing with Retribution that kept it alive right up until it was revealed that it was Mustafa Ali. That was the one thing that was keeping the intrigue alive was that, well, who are these people, right? And, none of them were, it was that there's a couple of them who were clearly like, Mia Yim, obviously, Donovan Dijak, obviously. But no, we had to keep the masks on and never acknowledge that they had ever been in WWE, right? Because it's dumb, right? Yeah, and like Chad is saying, do you need to make masks if people don't know who you are? Like that, I don't understand. So the payoff here ultimately is, once people get unmasked, we get, then you get some kind of revelation. It's like, oh, this was a cool surprise. But unless there's like a puppet master hanging in the wings that's controlling the group, like who cares? Like maybe Sean Spears. You want to bet it's Sean Spears? You want to bet Sean Spears is the leader of this group? Do you want to bet Sean Spears is like, they're going to start talking about a puppet master. They're going to be starting to talk about a leader, an exalted one, something like that. The head chef. and it's going to be Sean Spears. Oh, we've got a chairman looking after us. All right. I think this is what it's leading to. And even if they do reveal Sean Spears, it's going to be like womp womp. Regardless. Anyway, it's funny because the audience was chanting, "Who are you?" which made me audibly giggle. I wrote it in my notes too. Yeah, I wrote it right here. There'll be Ricky Starks' group. Who is Ricky Starks? Who is this Ricky Starks? It was announced on the show that Ricky Starks is going to be signing his NXT, the FKA Ricky Starks is going to be signing his name in the middle of that ring on NXT tomorrow evening. And then probably his new name will be revealed and the internet will have a meltdown and I don't really care anymore. I really don't care. I guess he just didn't want WWE to own the name Ricky Starks, which is fine. What was next? Oh, this was next. Ethan Page. No, before that, Eddie Thorpe defeated Trick Williams in a strap match. I don't have many thoughts about the match itself because I thought the match was poor. I didn't think it was very good at all, actually. I don't think it was good. And that's not even the thing that unnerves me the most, okay? That's not even the thing that bothered me the most here, in the match. It's just like, what are they doing with Trick Williams? Again, I don't watch the weekly show, but I remember 1 year ago, 1 year ago, at this time in 2024, Trick Williams was coming out, getting some of the biggest reactions on the show, and some would argue even on the main roster. He was a hot commodity. Started building up to his match with Carmelo Hayes at the Stand and Deliver stuff, and people were excited for it, and we were, a lot of people were very into it because it was very fresh. A lot of us were a little, including myself, I was a little weary because it's like, well, the entrance is over. People are great, but we gotta pump the brakes here a little bit because Trick Williams isn't exactly a polished in-ring product. I'll put it that way. So, I'm watching all of this and I see him lose to Eddie Thorpe, who is like kind of meaningless, directionless. Like he's just a guy, like the most average bog standard guy, just a guy. There's nothing exciting about him. He's just, doesn't necessarily pop off the screen, doesn't have, doesn't translate really well to WWE stuff where I'm not blown away by his work or anything. It's like, it's Eddie Thorpe. It's, Carl Fredericks, the guy who took himself out of of New Japan to go pursue his dream of doing whatever he's doing right now, being a DJ or whatever the gimmick is. But they had such a hot property with Trick, even though not a finished product. This is a guy that they expressively have had him lose to Ethan Page, only to get the title back from Ethan Page, working with Ethan Page in these super ordinary matches. And now over with, Eddie Thorpe in a strap match, which is like, yes, they whipped each other. And I'm like, this is not, this is like the, it's like baby's first strap match, It's like, it's a PG version of a strap match. It's not interesting. It's not particularly good. It's slow. And there's nothing dramatic being built. And Eddie Thorpe gets the win, crotching the other guy, crotching Trick with the strap. And what are we doing? I'm just sitting there going, what are we doing? The thing that boggles my mind the most is how much they have taken Trick Williams, who was a hot commodity, and just cooled him off for whatever reason. They needed to cool him off for some reason. They talk, a lot of people talk a lot of stuff about NXT, but I'll tell you one thing, their men's division stinks. It stinks. It really does. Are they scared of him getting booed from winning too much like Braun did? I don't know. The difference between him and Braun is that he has the crowd connection. Braun really never did. That was always a big criticism. Ethan Page defeated Javon Evans. Yeah, look, here's another completely baffling decision here. To have another guy that is hot, another guy that the NXT universe is really behind, right? Young up and comer, could probably do great things in the brand. No, we prefer to push Ethan Page instead. We prefer to have Ethan Page go over in these matches. I think Ethan Page's role in the company is to make sure that these hot prospects not only wrestle very bland matches to begin with, but also, make sure that they don't get too hot too quick. And the thing with Ethan Page, as I talked about with Trick Williams a few seconds ago, is that even in a match where he's set to lose, the other guy doesn't even look good in the process. He's not even able to put the other guy over properly, like in the ring with some really great action. Like this, like it's bonkers to me. Like, what is this? What I was gonna say, what is this promotion doing? But it's a brand of WWE. And I also understand now that NXT is moving away from the label of it being developmental, right? Because now we've got the Evolve show, right? That's going to take care of that. We got TNA. That's going to, that's a joke. Or is it? Yes, it is. Not really, but also a joke. But also, NXT's moving away from being like purely developmental. Now it's like the third brand of the up and comers, right? So I understand that now they're more in a position where it's like, well, we're just going to push people and try to get them over and get the brand over and so on and so forth. But you're getting over Ethan Page. Ethan Page, who we have discussed multiple times on this podcast in very recent months, that it's a guy who has been given multiple opportunities to mix it up at the top level with the top players in the business and always ends up delivering an Ethan Page match, which is just like, just white bread with a little bit of margarine on top. Not butter. I didn't say butter. I said margarine. That's an Ethan Page match. So even if he's put in these scenarios, these positions where he's supposed to put the other guy over, and the other guy's supposed to look a little stronger coming out of the matches are so uninspired and bland that you're like, what are we doing? There doesn't seem to be upward mobility for these obvious stars, for these obvious guys who can work this company for years and years and years to come in exciting matches. I legitimately don't understand the Ethan Page push right now. I don't understand it. I have no idea what's going on. I don't understand it. There's a lot of things I don't understand in this company. Lexis King is something I also don't understand. Suit Williams was telling me, because he watches the program, God bless his heart, and he told me, like, Lexis King is on every week. Like, he's doing stuff every week. And like, there's so many other people that they could be trying out here. Like, I legitimately do not understand. I really don't understand. Now, the match started off hot. All right. The match started off hot, and because it's a blood feud, so they go right at it. People are excited about it. Energy. There was a lot of energy in this match, and Evans is so psyched up and he's ready to go that he does this incredibly awesome dive, but like overshoots Ethan Page, to crash like over the commentary table. Look, Ethan Page has to catch him and keep him from going too far. Like, that's like great instincts on Page's part. Don't get me wrong here. Like, he made sure that Javon was as safe as possible. There's some fierce strikes by Evans. Like everything is off really, really hot. And I wrote in my notes here, I said, so what's going to happen? What's going to keep it from staying hot like this? I'm like, what's going to happen? It never hit another gear. But I thought there was a lot of effort in this match, and it's going to be the same situation with the second match, with the next match we're going to talk about. I didn't hate this match as much as I thought I was going to, and I think that a lot of it has to do with the fire that Javon Evans has, that really is able to drag me in. Like, he is such a good babyface. He's such a good natural babyface in his mannerisms and how he conducts himself and how explosive he is for his hope spots and his comebacks. It was just really, really good on that front. But Ethan Page, man, he is what he is at this point. And, despite Javon Evans stomping on Ethan Page's face, Ethan Page is able to shake it off and hit his finisher, whatever it is, to get the win, right? It's like a twist of fate kind of thing, right? I liked it. I liked it more than I thought I was going to like it. It was pretty good. Honestly, good little match. I'm going to give it 3.25 stars. But what a baffling decision. Again, here. Just an absolutely baffling decision to have another guy, another hot young prospect. I know Trick Williams isn't young per se, but bear with me here. Another hot prospect being swallowed up by the Ethan Page machine. Obafemi successfully retained the NXT title in a triple threat match against Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, who are in the midst of a breakup angle and are sent back down to NXT. Again, like, I don't watch the weekly show. Are they in a breakup angle because they're blaming each other for being demoted? Because that's what it should be. Because I know they started teasing the breakup while they were on main, and then they get sent to NXT. That should absolutely be the angle. They're mad at, each guy is mad at the other guy because they got demoted, and that should be addressed. You know, Grayson Waller should say, "It's your fucking fault that we're in NXT again. You know, you squid." And Austin Theory says, "No, we're back here in NXT because Vince McMahon is gone and he was protecting my career, and now no one's looking out for me because everyone hates me." Well, you add a little shoot element to it, might make it a little more interesting because it's true on top of that. So you sort of see how this is going to go. Two guys who are in a team but who are at odds are trying to become world champion, trying to fight the big, imposing, Ahmed Johnson type guy. And so they're going to have to team up, even though they're sort of mad at each other. So at some point, one guy's going to do one thing to the other guy, and it's all going to break apart. And that's that's the layout of the match. You saw this coming from the minute it was booked. You saw that this was going to happen. That's exactly what happens. In the meantime, Obafemi, he's throwing those fools around, right? Like, Obafemi's cool. Obafemi is pretty cool. Like, I still think here's a guy too early to be in a championship position here at the head of NXT. That's just me. But nonetheless, cool. And not losing to guys that he shouldn't be losing to, like Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Femi throws Waller through commentary, and which was tremendous. And Austin Theory lands his finisher on Obafemi. Referee covers, but Waller drags the referee out of the ring, and that, it's just, nothing's working here. Grayson Waller accidentally lands his finisher on Austin Theory, and Obafemi lands the fall from grace for the win. And this match had fire. It had effort. Everyone was working hard. I've always liked Grayson Waller. I've kind of always had a soft spot for him. Austin Theory is whatever, but he worked hard. Here's a guy who knows his spot is in danger, right? This is a guy who absolutely knows that he no longer has the guaranteed spot he used to have when the boss was around, and he was the boss's pet project. Now the bosses have changed, and the new boss is like, I don't know what to do with this guy. He's kind of vanilla and a dork. What are we doing here? So everyone worked hard here. Obafemi worked hard. It was a good match, strong match. Crowd was super into it, which also helps. I'd give it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. I thought it was I thought it was quite a good match, actually. And then in the main event, Julia retained her NXT Women's title against Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, and Bayley. This was not a good match. I'm sorry to say that this was not a good match. I think it's Suit Williams in his review on Voices of Wrestling pointed this out, right? He said something like, he pointed this out. Vic Joseph at the start of the match says something to the effect that this was a showcase of the best women's division in pro wrestling, right? And the 4 women in the ring then proceeded to prove Vic Joseph wrong. I don't think this was very good. I don't think it was good at all, actually. This is kind of a bad match. I'm very, very close to going into true bad match territory. And you know what? Here's the thing. Cora Jade, she stinks, man. I don't know who's pretending that she's good, because she's not. I don't know if it's the blown out knees that have reduced her to whatever this is. But on top of that, charisma-less, she's got nothing. she doesn't look like she's wrestling. She stands around and waits for stuff to happen. She just stands. Like she's not invested in it. A good you know what? A good comparison is what people say about Shota Umino, right? Where Shota Umino doesn't have in New Japan. Shota Umino doesn't have the drive. He just looks like he's coming to work. You know, that's his main criticism, is that he's not showing fire, he's not showing passion, he's not showing that he wants it. Well, that's Cora Jade. Cora Jade is just like doing stuff and going through motions, and she's not good. She is not good. And we have to stop pretending that she is. I don't know who's pretending that she is. But right now, like, if anyone considers her to be good, okay, let's say, then we should start putting her in overrated lists. I think she's completely overrated. She brings nothing to the table. I don't know, like a complete dud in this match. And you know who else stunk in this match? Julia. I thought Julia was, in fact, it's particularly egregious that Julia is bad in this match, because she should not be. You know what I mean? Like, she should not be this bad. And she's blowing spots left and right. Like, it's not just like, oh, you know, trying to do things and it's not. No, she's blowing spots. And not just once, a couple of times in this match. And I'm like, what the fuck is she doing? And stuff like a flying octopus hold, which I have seen her do hundreds of times. I'm like, what? You know, everything was so trite and slow. And the match starts with some of the goofiest four-way spots. They're doing shit and it's so slow, and you can see, you know, Cora Jade thinking about what she has to do next. You know, it's like, oh my God, just don't do it then. You know, they're trying to set up this idea where everyone's doing cool moves to start, and, you know, they're all on the same level, but they're not. Well, yes, they're all on the same level, and that level is poor. And chat says Bailey is, you know, to throw into the pile here. I have been a Bailey fan for a long time. I have been a guy, I will have fond memories of her career, particularly in NXT. I am absolutely one of the guys who, you know, bemoaned Vince for not giving her the big push upon being called up. I think in another universe, It's Bailey is the face of the women's division in AEW. She's the female John Cena. I think they had it. I really think they had it with her, but Vince didn't see that, and preferred to put her, you know, in angles where Alexa Bliss, where, you know, she never kissed a boy or whatever the fuck that was, right? This Is Your Life segment, which was horrendous. It was just so bad. So again, like, so when it comes to Bailey, you know, I've never been a hater. I've been a Bailey enjoyer, but at this point I've said it for a couple of years now, you know, especially after her last injury, Bailey's washed, and, you know, it's okay. It's okay. She's had a really great career, but her injuries have all caught up with her, and she is not the wrestler she used to be. She just isn't. And I actually thought she had some of the more well-rounded stuff in this match. Thought Roxanne didn't look bad. But what a train wreck this match was. I even made a note here. It's a match that I'm incredibly indifferent to, despite Bailey doing everything she can to keep it all together. That's what I wrote here. What kind of baffles me, there's a lot of baffling things here in this show, as you can tell. I feel like I've been baffled quite a bit. But what baffles me the most is how Julia is not adapting well to the WWE style, apparently, anyway. And I think there are, some people have been sharing some tweets about WWE fans and how they were reacting to Julia's performance and how they're not exactly infused by her skills. And it's, I don't know if we are seeing the beginning of the WWE universe turning on Julia. But if so, I wouldn't be surprised. I know that kind of sounds awful to say, but I wouldn't exactly be shocked if that was the case, because, and I think we talked about this when she joined WWE, right? If she's not in the ring kicking the shit out of girls and throwing shoot headbutts, right? It's these things, this level of savagery that made her, that appealed to a lot of people, including myself, and we were like excited to watch old Stardom matches with Julia involved, because she was bonkers. And if she goes to WWE and cannot wrestle that style, and they need her to slow it down, they need her to go a little softer, not be as harsh, then WWE fans sit back, they look at her in this performance here, and they go, well, what's the big deal with this woman? We don't get it. Like, everyone was making such a big stink out of her coming here, and we're kind of like shrugging our shoulders, going like, what is the big deal? Because she really hasn't shined in NXT in any of the matches I saw with her. She hasn't been like tearing the house down. She's been very fine. I think there was a tag team match she did with Vicaire that I thought she was pretty good in. But, the night she won the title against Roxanne, all right, it wasn't anything spectacular. Like, I understand if WWE fans look at her and sort of shrug and said, we don't get it. We don't understand why people think this person is good. I get it. And I think it's something that we need to keep an eye on. We'll see what happens. We'll see what the next step is. But if I'm WWE, if I'm Julia, I'm trying to find ways to adapt to the style, because they're paying me a lot of money to do this, right? And sometimes, it's like it's comforting to know that despite it all, there is still like a working standard for WWE fans, right? There's still nonetheless a working standard that you have to hit if you want to make it in WWE. Right? And I think we're seeing a lot of it with Jey Uso and because Jey Uso is very divisive in the WWE fan base. Don't let anyone tell you opposite. Don't let anyone tell you different. There's an entire side that are like, yes, cool. There's another side of like, wait, what kind of thing. So, if there's anything to glean out of this situation, is that you can only coast so much on charm in WWE. There is a moment where when you hit the ring, we do expect you to perform at a certain level. And right now, she's dropping the ball. It's just as simple as that. And I think a lot of us kind of saw it coming. Not in the sense that she stunk and she's going to stink it up, but it's like, well, how is she going to translate to the WWE style? And the answer is with great difficulty. That's how she's going to translate to the WWE style. So that's my review. I gave this match 2 stars, by the way. I really didn't think it was good. And the ongoing saga of bad, poor NXT show main events continues. That's all there is to it. It's kind of bad. Oh yeah, and Jordan Grace showed up at the end because look, after the match, Stephanie Vaquer came to the ring to sort of pose with Julia with their titles, and then Jordan Grace showed up and she just like stared both of them down and faded to black because Jordan Grace is in WWE now and everyone's acted shocked and you're like, well, come on, man. The only thing that's shocking is that they're not putting her on main roster. That's the only thing that's shocking. It's legitimately the only thing that's really shocking is that she's going to scum around in NXT first. WWE Vengeance Day 2025. Not a terrible show. Not a bad show. Not a good show. Just, it's fine. It didn't, I've seen a lot worse from NXT. I've seen a lot worse, period. It's not I don't want to gouge my eyes out after watching the show, but, are we improving? Are we finally like finding a new footing with NXT? Let's see. It's definitely not as dire as it was. And I guess that's an improvement. It's not as bad as it used to be just last year. Maybe Chef Michaels is cooking and maybe he's cooking spaghetti bolognese and everyone is really freaking the fuck out because they've never had spaghetti bolognese before. And that about does it for another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Thank you all very much for being here. If you haven't already, one more pitch for a like on YouTube, a 5-star review, a 5-star rating, all that stuff would be tremendous. I appreciate it a great deal. Don't forget, I stream multiple times a week on the YouTube channel. So head on over, subscribe to the YouTube stuff. There's a lot of things that happen there that don't necessarily make it over to the podcast and vice versa. So, it's a good exchange of stuff and you want to be part of the Warren Hayes universe. So, you want to be part of that. I can't believe I said that. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm not editing it. I'm leaving it in there, just so everyone knows that I am incredibly, incredibly cringe. I stream, so I'll be streaming a couple of nights again this week and so on and so forth. But otherwise, I will be back for the podcast format on Thursday for another great, fantastic edition of the AEW Dynamite review. So we'll be doing that. In the meantime, folks, I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Thank you very much for being here. I'll see you next time.